Controlling the virtual environment with HTC Vive controllers, Section 5. By this section, you know how to create a virtual world using Unity. And now let's control that world by importing packages like SteamVR and VRTK plugin and using it to control the HTC Vive controllers. We will also add sounds to our scene and also be adding haptic feedback, which gives the user a sense of actually touching few objects. So let's go ahead and start coding. Setting up HTC Vive on Windows. In this video, we are going to learn how to set up HTC Vive for our Windows machine. Step 1 is to check the system requirements. HTC Vive supports operating system Windows 7, SP1, Windows 8, and Windows 10. It requires a minimum processor of type Intel i5 4590 or AMD FX 8350 equivalent or greater. Minimum memory required is 4 GB of RAM. And finally, we need a NVIDIA graphics card, which is GeForce GTX 970 or AMD Radeon R9 290 equivalent or greater. If any of the system requirements do not match, then we will not be able to build our application for HTC Vive. Although we can still go ahead and create applications for HTC Vive in our Unity game engine using the VRTK simulator. Step 2 is to finally do HTC Vive installation. For this, you need to go to the mentioned link. Steam website provides a very good documentation for installing HTC Vive. It covers all the areas of installation like identifying play area, installing the Steam software, installing base stations, headset, and finally running the room setup. So let's go to steampowered.com. So now we are on support.steampowered.com. As I've already mentioned that Steam provides HTC Vive installation guide on its own. The installation guide is broken into 10 simple steps. Let's go through them one by one. First thing is to make sure that you have the updated drivers and your computer is VR ready. It also tells you what comes in the HTC Vive box, like the headset, the controllers, the link cables, the boxes, micro USB cables, AC adapters, base stations, and sync cable. So now step 1 is to pick a room. With HTC Vive, the first thing is that you need a minimum space of 6.5 feet into 5 feet. This is required because the player needs to move in the VR space. Otherwise, you will end up bumping into different real-world objects like a sofa, maybe TV, or a lamp. To avoid this, you need to have minimum space where there is no obstacle and you can freely roam around in your VR space. Step 2 is to place the base stations. In this, you can see if you follow the cursor, there is one base station on the right and then there's other base station diagonally to the previous base station. These base stations are required to track the player's movement in the VR world and it is very useful when we are trying to do 6DOF. The next step is to actually set up the base stations. You need to place them at a certain angle, like 30 to 45 degrees, and they need to have an unobstructed view of each other. The fourth step is to power and adjust the base stations. So you can keep following the steps and keep installing the base stations, headset, and other items. Let's look at the most important step, point number 8, that is installing Steam and Steam VR. For this, you can go to the provided link here and it will help you install Steam on your laptop. Once Steam is installed, then you can install Steam VR. As I already have Steam VR set up on my machine, I will not be showcasing the demo in this video. Once all the setup is complete, you need to do a room setup. This is required because it helps HTC Vive and the base stations to track your position well and it makes sure that you are not bumping into the real world objects. So you're all set to enjoy VR. In this video, we learned how to set up HTC Vive on our Windows machine.